going to be talking about engaging and motivating your remote team.
I think one of the big things is trust. What's been really interesting over the last few weeks is, before, people have maybe worked from home odd times, and so, but now actually we're all working with quite remote teams, virtual teams, and where they seem to be working really well is where the leadership teams or the leaders really trust their people to do the right thing, support them, make sure they get the communication right, but ultimately just letting them get on and do a great job.
Michelle is a real expert in this area, but it makes me think about the kind of quote where we talk about how long it can take to establish trust and how it can be gone almost in an instance. And I think it's really important that people continue to invest time and effort in communicating with their staff. Just because they're not physically in an office, actually it's possibly even more important at this time.
From the businesses that I've spoken to, that many businesses are finding that they're actually getting more productivity from their teams than they expected from them working remotely, and actually they're realizing that they can trust their teams. But I think they need to have the right structure in place to be able to help their teams to work effectively. I think the issue of trust is that people will give their best as long as they're being treated well, and that includes how they're communicated with.
Communication is absolutely crucial at this point, and I think when we're going through big change, it's even more important to have regular communication. You know, it's that age-old adage that if you don't communicate, people will make up their own stories and fill in the gaps. So one of my big tips would be really communicating regularly, at least every day. It may be even more. So certainly lots of our clients and as a team, we're having morning sessions, Zooming in together, or Microsoft Teams, whatever you use, whether they're furloughed as well. You know, I think it's important to do it for both employed people who are working and also people who are furloughed as well. And every day just having a plan. What is it you're going to do today? You know, what are the 3 things that you're going to achieve today? And that, again, for the furloughed people, might be 3 things they're going to do at home. But I think it's important to have that focus every day.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, I've had experience of managing an organisation with 1,500 people in it when I was chief exec. And really, for me, the key around the communication, I think, is being honest. I would never, ever underestimate how important that is. So I'd be really honest with people if I didn't know an answer. I'd also be honest that I didn't know what the future would hold. And I think that's really true for now. And I think where you can give certainty, do in that communication. And when you don't know, say you don't know. And I think the other thing is really important to have a combination of both formal and informal communication methods, and look at a range and diverse ways of communicating with your staff at times like this.
I think that's really interesting about different styles of communication. So I've been talking to different clients and helping different clients with different ways of communicating. And some are writing a daily blog, some are doing video blogs from the senior team, which are going down well and making people feel like they know what's happening at the top. I think it's really important to celebrate success and talk about things that are going well if you are having some success in the business, and so that people have got some hope, because hope is a really important thing in motivation. And also make sure that your managers have a structure so that there's team meetings are happening and one-to-ones are happening. In my experience, even in offices, people have trouble doing that kind of having that kind of structure. So, and we're finding as well in our own team that we're having to reinvent the way that we structure our internal meetings. Sometimes they're shorter on video calls, but they're very important that you still have the same kind of huddles that you had before with the same kind of people, so that your management team have a discussion and then they disseminate that information in their teams, and also make sure that they're all having one-to-ones, because people can get lost on some of the video calls. Also things like an internal newsletter, all the kind of internal communications that you would do normally, they just need to be amplified.
So I think it's really interesting, the centre team at the moment, because certainly from conversations we're having, lots of people are feeling that lack of sense of team at the moment. It's quite challenging, even when you're doing all the right things, to keep feeling like a team when you're working remotely. But we know it's absolutely crucial to engagement, that sense of team. And I think if we don't get this right now, it's going to have quite an impact when we come back out the other side of this as well. So actually keeping all those communication things we've talked about are absolutely crucial for keeping that sense of team, but also as well making sure you celebrate successes together. So you mentioned that, Rachel, earlier. I think actually take the time to celebrate the small things, and don't forget people still need to feel valued and recognised every day. So make the time to celebrate the little things in those sessions that you're having every day. Celebrate together every little thing you achieve, because anything we achieve, I think, at this point in time is really, really powerful.
Yeah, I was thinking about really the role of the leaders really in that team. And of course, leadership happens at all levels in a team. And again, my own experience would be to remember to show care and compassion. We know that people are whole people. It's not just the individuals we work with, they have a whole life behind them. And I always found it was really important to remember to talk to people about other things that were going on in their life, and to show that you genuinely care about them as a person, not just, if you like, a team member or an employee number.
One thing I've been finding is some of my team don't like talking when there's everybody on a call. So, and you sometimes notice that they are not saying anything. You kind of can tell by their body language that they're not having a good day. So it's good to ring them up. I sometimes use just a normal phone call, because then they don't have to look at your face, and then they talk about stuff, which is kind of good. So I think have that. And also, yeah, one thing I'm struggling with is putting your arm around someone who is having a bad day, because you're not actually seeing them. You can't have a little chat by the kettle or whatever. So I think it is good to just ring them up and sort of chat about how they're doing, and or just have a general chat and see what comes out of the conversation. But I do agree about the sense of team. The fun things and the banter can really help with a sense of team. We're doing team yoga, which is really helping our team vibe.
Just to add to that, Rachel, as well, I think another thing to really consider is the social side of communication. So as Nat mentioned, the formal and informal. One of the things that we've set up is a WhatsApp group, just to have some of that more social conversation as well that you would normally have in an office, that banter that you have at work. I think that's really important as well as another communication channel, just to keep some of that sort of sense of team and things together as well.